Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. The time is 11:52 p.m., the night before this comes out. I'm sitting here in the office, Crumbles. My dear cat is with me. Naomi, Mabel, Midge, asleep in the bedroom. It's peaceful here in our neck of the woods in Los Angeles. How was your week, everyone? Let's see here. What happened this week? Just off the top of my head, I guess. Okay, that was good. Some good electoral stuff, I suppose. I don't think I have a ton of hope that there are electoral solutions for what we're going through, but I'm very happy whenever progressives, whenever socialists, whenever leftists get elected. A lot of folks in Michigan that fit that description. What else happened? I guess there was a report that said the supercharged El Nino is going to really cause a lot of havoc next year, kind of kick off the next phase of the whole climate catastrophe thing that we'll all be dealing with. So I guess those two things balance each other out, I suppose. Climate catastrophe and a handful of electoral victories here in America. Good episode today. Good episode. This is fantastic. This is Blockhead, Tony Simon. If you don't know who Tony is, I'm going to read you his bio right now. Originally from Manhattan, musician and producer Tony Simon, a.k.a. Blockhead, grew up in an artistic household and started making music when he was a teenager. He went to Boston University for a year, which may not have worked out academically, but did artistically, because this is where he met Aesop Rock and began making beats for him, starting with 1999's Appleseed EP. Back in New York, he formed the duo Party Fun Action Committee, and in 2003, Def Jux put out their album, Let's Get Serious. The following year, Ninja Tune released Tony's first instrumental album, Music by Cavelight, and in the years since, Tony has composed and produced dozens of albums working with some of the best rappers of the 21st century, including the aforementioned Aesop Rock, Billy Woods, Armand Hammer, Open Mike Eagle, and so many others. Just a few weeks ago, Phantom Limb released his latest album, Boat Shoes, a collaboration with one of the most fun and creative MCs performing today, Brian Ennals, and it is incredible. I've been listening to Aesop Rock for decades now, and so unwittingly I had been enjoying Tony's beats for just as long, but it wasn't until his album, The Aux, a couple years ago that I was like, oh, okay, this is the person behind all this music I've loved. Tony just has a fantastic ear for what makes an intriguing and catchy beat, and I don't think there was anyone else like him in hip-hop. So when I found out him and Brian were doing an album together, I could not have been more excited. Brian and Knives have been on the show before a couple years ago after King Cobra came out. And their album together, last year, City Drowned and God's Black Tears, was maybe my favorite album of the year. There aren't a ton of people that I think are capturing the moment. Brian is one of them. Psalm 1 is another one. Probably others that I can't think of because I'm exhausted and it is now past midnight. But I was so excited when I found out that Tony and him were doing an album together, and it does not disappoint. I've just been listening to it over and over again since it came out. Highly recommended. Easily top 10 of this year. And Tony himself could not have been nicer to talk to. This was a joy to have him on the show. We get into what it was like to live in New York pre-Giuliani, how it transformed post-Giuliani, and what that meant for the artistic scene there and for Tony's own pathway. There's a lot of other stuff, some surprising folks that his dad, who was an artist, knew. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it with Tony. But quickly, before we get into the show, just want to preview a couple episodes coming up. Josh Olson, fantastic screenwriter. He wrote A History of Violence. David Rees, Hutch Harris of the Thermals, Solex, Evan Dorkin. The punk indie rock band, I don't even know how you would classify them, but they're great. Sweeping Promises. I just talked to them the other day, and that was absolutely a blast. They're so cool. So stay tuned for those. But for now, let's talk to Blockhead. I read your Wikipedia article. I was about to say,
Mhm.
I found 6 facts about you. When it's like, I read your Wikipedia article. If I read someone's Wikipedia article and I'm like, there's enough there that that I think this will last us an hour, then I'm like, we're done. Some people are very secretive in their Wikipedia articles. There's not much.
Well, I didn't write my own, so I don't know what's there, to be honest with you. So,
well,
yeah.
you got your birth, the year of your birth.
Yeah.
Lived your early part of your life in downtown Manhattan.
Yeah. I'm still there.
Still in downtown Manhattan,
Yeah.
which was very exciting for me because I think the thing that at least in my adult life kind of shaped my creative direction was the idea, not because I was too young and I didn't move to New York in time, but like the downtown art scene.
Oh yeah, well there's a lot of that in my life, in my childhood, because my dad was an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that like kind of like in my head, and then or more of like film in the like early, like Hal Hartley, like stuff like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I'm like, this is New York. And then I moved there in 2008 and I'm just like, this is not New York.
Oh yeah. You got the post 9/11 New York. It's a different thing entirely. There's post 9/11 and there's post Giuliani.
Yeah.
In my life, those are the markers. Those are the markers of like the changes of New York.
Did you see like a marked difference like in your own life, or was it just like, oh, that's, there's an M&M store, so yeah?
Well, post Giuliani changed a bunch of things. It definitely like they did all this like quality of life, and I'm putting quotes up, stuff that like like the broken window thing, what I forget what it's called, but they did all these things kind of to make it more palatable to people on the outside. They cracked down on like underage drinking, which is a problem for me because I turned 20 when he was mayor. So for 1 year, I couldn't drink, even though I was drinking when I was like 14 in New York. They just kind of made like petty crimes a bigger deal, and it cleaned things up, and it made, to an extent, it made like Times Square like a Disney World type place. And then 9/11 was more, it happened, and then like the smoke cleared, and then everyone started moving in, and then the real like it was like the real like people from Ohio who should never live in New York started living in New York, and that was yeah.
Wait, why did they? I when you said moved in, I thought you meant like kind of the disaster capitalism folks coming in and buying up stuff, but like
that may have happened, but I mean just from a like a perspective of someone just living there, like listen, gentrification was never not a thing in New York. And especially like once more money got pumped in, it just like, I remember like my friends moving to Williamsburg in like 95, and I was like, where? Like that was like I dated a girl in who lived off the Montrose stop on the L in 96, and it was like a crazy neighborhood. It was like an insane, like I definitely stuck out like a sore thumb in that neighborhood. And so like I've seen that happen, but like beyond that just always being a thing, like it was like people who lived in New York at that time, they moved there because they wanted to live there and they wanted to be in New York and like experience and like have the New York experience. But I think something happened post 9/11 and like early like 2003 2004 where people moved there and were like, I want to live in New York, but I also kind of want to bring my own hometown bullshit with me. and I want to turn this formerly great neighborhood into a mall. Because that's what I want. Like I'm gonna move to the Lower East Side, and these bars are loud. I'm gonna complain, and I'm gonna get them shut down. Like it's like that. Like those people started moving, and that kind of changed everything. It was Sex and the City. It was girls. It was like How to Make It in America. It was a lot of people just watching TV, being like, I want to do that.
Okay.
And it changed everything.
At first I thought you meant like patriots from the heartland of America. We gotta New York is a symbol now, and we gotta take it back for the real patriots.
That never happened. No. It was basic people from small towns moving here, and like instead of adhering to the New York code, just like imposing their shit on us. Like something I was thinking about is like there was a time in my life where like if you were acting out on the train, like if someone was being crazy, and I don't mean like a crazy homeless person like who's dangerous seeming, but like someone being too loud or boisterous, like you would get regulated by someone. someone would be like, "Hey, shut the fuck up," like something would happen, and, it would stop it, and everyone would be like, "All right, we're back to business." And something happened in the last like 20 years where that just is no longer a thing, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I guess we don't regulate people anymore."
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That it's just kind of like that. Like people were just like, I want to go eat at cafeteria, or someone who saw like the first season of Entourage, where it's like, I want to live like Vinny Chase.
It was. Well, I imagine that was more in LA. Like in LA, that was probably a thing. People were like, I want to be like Vinny Chase. By the way, known Adrian Grenier since I was 16. Unrelated. Haven't seen him in like 20 years, but yeah.
You didn't get to go to the Entourage premiere party?
No. I did. I got to go to a couple of things, but I was never so close friends with him. I was like, he was close friends with my close friends. So we knew each other. We'd see each other, but I was never like, I don't think I've like hung out with him alone. I recorded an album at his studio.
Cool.
I recorded one of my albums at the studio in Brooklyn, but that's, I haven't seen him. And I don't, yeah.
But once like HBO started to depict New York, that's what
Sex in the City.
Yeah,
Sex in the City.
Specifically Sex in the City.
That changed a lot.
When people started wearing tutus as part of their outfits.
Tutus. It just brought in like, like people that were like obsessed with like cupcakes and like, and like it just it something about it just glamorized it in a way that I think really appealed to like your most basic of basic people. And then they get here and they're like, this is not what I was told this would be like. Because unless you're rich, you're not moving into a neighborhood that's like Sarah Jessica Parker's neighborhood. You're moving into like somewhere in Brooklyn that is like probably not as nice as like, the West Village. So like, then that leads to the change.
Yeah.
Or the effort to change things.
How do you think that shifted the art scene? Was it already kind of dying by that time? Because I asked this because like when I moved there, what I really wanted was the sketch scene. I thought I was going to go do sketch. And then by the time I got there in 2008, sketch was dead. Like everyone that was doing sketch had moved on. Was
whatchamacallit that? Was what's it called? Upright Citizens Brigade done at that point?
Well, they shifted sketch. Sketch to their version of it, which is not, I love UCB, but I love UCB for the improv. I think their version of sketch is not really my favorite.
Oh, right. They did improv. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, no, they did sketch too, but like I think game works. Sorry, we don't have to go into we don't have to go into their theory of comedy. Anyway, I just think their ideas work really well for improv. I think for sketch is less successful.
Okay.
And I think their idea of sketch took over. And there were just like I don't know if you've heard of Murder Fist, but like there were some like really good.
I have heard of that. I couldn't like place what it is, but I've heard the name before.
There were some really good sketch groups doing some fun, weird, innovative stuff still, like Murder Fist. But I think a majority of people just moved to Los Angeles at that point or stopped doing it or whatever.
LA always seemed like a better place for that anyway. I mean, outside of like SNL and like Miss fucking The State way back in the day. Yeah.
But I think like there had been like, Eugene Merman and The State and Stella and all these people had been doing a lot of stuff there that ended like around 2008, 2009.
What was the comedy? There was a comedy venue that was like the alternative place. It was on
Rafifi.
I want to say it was on Rafifi, but there's one before it, like with an L. That was on Ludlow
Luna
Street.
Lounge.
Luna Lounge.
See, I know all the stuff from the stories, but I never got to. I like performed on one of like the final like Eugene Merman shows at Rafifi. I got to do that at least, and then it was
that's cool.
Done.
That's cool. I went to Luna Lounge I saw music at Luna Lounge.
Yeah,
but I never saw sketch stuff there.
Yeah,
but
sorry, my point was just that like the things that I had gone to do there were kind of dying by the time I got there. And I'm curious, like, were the things that like piqued your interest kind of dying by the time that that Sarah Jessica Parker infected the city?
I would well, it's weird because I think it also coincided with the internet, which homogenized everything. So like it's hard to say. Like I remember like I have felt like a scene like when like Def Jux was happening and like everyone was in New York and like you'd go there'd be shows, you knew everyone. It did feel like a scene, like it felt like, oh, this is happening. And or also like the like indie rock scene, which I wasn't a part of, but like that was definitely a scene. Like that was definitely a thing that happened that you could like point at a crowd of people and be like, they're into that. And it's thriving because it's these people that are kind of all coming up together. But I do think the internet kind of changed that because it was no longer nothing felt local anymore. It just felt like everyone had everything, you know? So like yeah, like by the time I mean, it's probably around the time you got there. Like I don't know when Facebook or when MySpace like really took off. That's probably 2004,
Yeah,
2003 or
somewhere
something like
around
that.
there.
Like I imagine that changed everything. But like when people like it's funny, I'll be on tour and people are like, hey, what's the scene like in New York now? And I'm like, what? It I mean, there's rappers I know who I see and I go to their shows, but like I don't go to like the rap bar and hang out with the rap guys, you know. But there was a time where where Max Fish would have been that bar that like
Uh-huh.
everyone, like all the skaters and all the musicians and all the like graffiti writers, like everyone kind of like ended up there. Uh, so I guess that would have been the scene. I guess there's all different levels of what you would consider creatives, I guess. But it's I don't know. It it was never that palpable after the internet got popular to me.
Okay, so it seems like you're painting a picture that it seems like New York was being assaulted on culturally on many different sides, on many different levels. You have Giuliani, you've got
Yeah.
the internet, you have the HBOification
Hmm.
of of depicting the city in a certain way, attracting a certain person to it. That all together seemed to kind of dampen whatever
Hmm.
energy had been there before.
Yes, but I will say that like dampen's a good word because it wasn't like it got totally extinguished. Like the thing is like there are all these scenes existed, and like if you were immersed in it, then you probably felt like that scene was everything, and the thing is like the closest I got to that was the Def Jux like indie rap boom of like the early 2000s.
Mm.
And but even then I was kind of like always a foot out because I had like my own friends and like I wasn't hanging out with other artists. I mean like Aesop and I were close friends, but like I was like most of my time hanging was with my childhood friends. Like that's who I hung out with and they weren't involved in that scene at all. So I had my own like we had the parties that we go to that had nothing to do with that. And we had like the bars we go to that had nothing to do with that. And we had like it didn't feel like I was in this like mystical magical world of creativity. Like I was kind of like working on my own in this bubble and then with the artists who I work with and then everything else around it was just like my normal New York life.
Uh-huh. So here, I was about to ask
Mhm.
something, but let's go backwards and then come
Oh,
back
okay,
to this, and then maybe the question will be a little more answerable. So,
cool.
what was the New York that you grew up in? What was the New York of the 80s? I mean, I know that like you don't have to be like
Yeah,
there was graffiti on the subways. I just mean
I
like,
mean
where in Lower Manhattan were you? Like what?
I grew up in Greenwich Village in the I mean the 80s and the early 90s would be my formative years I'd say and it was like where the artists were like my dad was an artist and he bought the place that we lived in like the 60s and that's where I grew up, that's where I lived my whole life until I left there and pretty much like when he moved in there in the 60s like it was like that's where like Charlie Mingus lived. That's where like fucking like I'm saying like people like Woody Allen lived there or uh just like the most just like artists who are not yet
Right.
millionaires probably at the point but it was kind of like what I it was like a much different version of what like I think Bushwick would be now because like there's always the art communities in New York are always kind of like they get pushed further out so like this was like the first one.
Right.
I'd say this is the original one, as far as I know. Like, I mean, I think downtown was always the like Soho and the West Village were the original art scene. And then as you got gentrified, they moved out to like Lower East Side, Alphabet City, and then Brooklyn. Like it just gets pushed out more and more. But growing up there was, I mean, like it was just kind of it was like a cool, weird neighborhood. It had a lot of characters. It had it was a lot of like uh, it was an 80s New York. So like it was not safe, but it wasn't unsafe. It was just kind of like, it was eclectic. And I feel like
Mm.
and I grew up like maybe like 4 blocks from like West Fourth Street, which was like a big hub of activity at the time.
Yeah.
And West Fourth Street was very dangerous, and West Eighth Street was very dangerous on weekends.
Oh.
Like people, like you'd go there, and that'd be where if you want to get robbed, you go there.
Oh. Like West Fourth, like near where the like that basketball court is.
Exactly there. Like the cage was because it's where all the trains let out, and there'd just be a lot of people like looking to make money, there. And it was like there was a McDonald's on West Fourth, or is it West Fourth? Now there's like it's being turned into a comedy place by the cellar people.
Oh,
are turning it. But there was a famously horrific McDonald's on that corner that was just like, if you were around there, it at night it would be trouble. But again, you could walk down around it during the day and there's no problem. And like 8th Street and 6th Avenue, they had to like shut cars down from that block. This is what I remember from like when I was like in maybe like 8th, 9th, 10th grade, because cars would just kind of go up and down the strip and people would like be fighting and I don't know why they all convened there. I don't know why. There's like a Grace Papaya on the corner.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like cheap hot dogs, but it was just for some whatever reason, like that area from there and like down 6th Avenue to West 4th Street was always like kind of just this randomly shady at night area that wasn't shady during the day. It was interesting. I don't know, but that got cleaned up quick.
Yeah. But do you get the kind of like my wife is from Harlem, so the way that she describes a lot of like growing up in the city is that like she learned to kind of like read things like right, like your head's on a swivel, you're kind of just like you get very good at soaking up your environment without just from like small signals.
100%. I to this day I don't look in front of me when I walk. I look ahead and I purvey and I'm like I survey, I should say. And like because when you're younger, like especially as a teen, like you're so vulnerable as a teen in like early 90s New York, because you are a target for everyone. And the funny thing is like you don't have any money. Like I never had more than like $20 on me. So if I got robbed, I was like, here's fucking $8 and my bus pass, like that's all they could really get. But you'd always just be looking for problems. Like if you see like a group of teenagers like huddled up in that corner, that you're going to cross the street, or you're going to take you're going to take a different route. Or like if you see like any sort of melee, like it's you're just hyper aware. Sure. You're hyper aware of melee. And it's funny because like in New York is incredibly safe now. Like there's no, and also I'm a full grown adult and like no one is robbing me, not going. But like I still walk down the street with that same thing, and if I hear someone like screaming, I do like I'm just gonna check it out, see what it is. Like I will stop and look at the thing that's happening and not walk by it. I mean, I'll step over a passed out person, but
sure.
But I will. But if there's some, something clearly funky going on around me, I'm going to be like on high alert about it at all times.
Yeah.
But that's from childhood. That's like ingrained in me from when I was, I will say something else about the West Village is that I grew up a block away from Christopher Street, which is like the most famously gay street outside of Castro in San Francisco. And like, so I had that was also an interesting like culture shock from a young age, because I would be walking to school when I was like 10 or 9, and I would literally see guys like blowing each other on my way to school. I was like, oh, like in cars. I've definitely stepped over in my vestibule out of my building, like people like who had sex earlier, who were passed out and sleeping.
Ow.
And again, like I grew up in a nice neighborhood. Like it was not a dangerous neighborhood, but that was what it was like in the 80s. Like it just, everything was everywhere. But that was interesting. Like I had a very, very early like exposure to like a very extreme type of like gayness that I think people don't really see. Like which is very interesting because like like I knew what a bottom was when I was like 12. Like that kind of like I had like an intimate knowledge of things that like most 12-year-olds do not have at that time, at least.
Just a 12-year-old just walking in. Like, so are you verse or where?
I remember I was walking back from school one day and I was 12 and I was like a big kid for my age, but I was 12. you know. And there was this like it was a gay bookstore on the corner. It was on like Hudson and Grove or something like that. The door would open. It was like all blue. You couldn't like see any. There's no windows, but the door would open. And it had all these turnstiles in the back, and I was like, "What the fuck is that all about?" And like I walked by, and this guy was like he's like, "Do you party?" And I was 12. And I was like, with cake? Like, what are you talking about? And I kind of just looked and I was like, huh? And I just walked away. And he was like, oh, okay. I think he thought it was. I think he thought I was. I think he thought I was like. He was hoping I was like an NYU twink or something like that.
Yeah.
But,
deceptive height. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like 5'9" when I was like 12, so it's probably confusing. But yeah, but like stuff like that would happen. So that was
you could have been an adult with CTE or something, where you're just like, you hear party and you're just like, oh, I love cake. I love streamers. I love you're like, oh, this guy played football too much. Okay. I have an idea of kind of like that. How much of that did you soak up in terms of your creative life? Like, I guess what I mean by that is, I was thinking specifically of the kind of like, you have to kind of have like I said, your head on a swivel if you're going to navigate 80s, early 90s, pre-Giuliani New York.
Yeah.
And I would think that maybe that might sharpen your instincts at all. Maybe.
I would assume it did. I mean, like, I can't say because I don't know what it's like to not be me.
Yeah.
but like, I assume that like, I mean, I know that like when I'm in other cities, like, I feel like I'm the only one paying attention, or if I'm like, or not, and not even like just like aware of my surroundings. It's like cognizant of like other people and their time, and like if you're on a line at like a fucking like a bagel place in I don't know, in like North Carolina or something like that. Like the way people are just like in no rush and like not considering. They're like, oh, can I try that cream cheese? Can I do? Like, it's just like everything is. And New York is like go. Like, get your thing, move out of the way, go. I feel like that's part of that. I'd say, there's definitely a little of that.
Yeah, it's what I miss about New York. It's what I hate about Los Angeles, where like everyone is like the person in the bagel line going, yeah, poppy seed. What is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, forget like an ice cream place. Fucking hell on earth.
Yeah. Where Naomi and my wife and I, we're just like, come on, we know what we want to do. Let's do that thing. Let's give us a yes or a no on this. Why do we have to wait 3 months for you to like, it's a lot of that kind of like waiting that we didn't have to deal with in New York. That is like endemic to life here in Los Angeles is just excruciating.
I was just out there and I noticed it and I was like, yeah, this is, and I was also in Venice. So I was like, Jesus Christ, it's like times 10 over here. But what's like a perfect indication of this is like when you have takeout and you get a number and you're waiting for them to call your number. I've never not immediately got my food.
Yeah.
And I've never been one of these people where they're calling the number for like 5 minutes and that person just isn't anywhere. And I don't understand that person as a concept, but that's what it's like being outside of New York a lot when I am like waiting and trying to, get the thing I want.
Yes. Here's a theory. Tell me if this resonates with you at all.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that kind of mentality pushes you to do your own thing on average more often than people in other places. Like, I was thinking this kind of like, hey, I'm moving quickly. I don't want to wait for other people. I'm going to do the thing I want to do artistically. And then, we'll see what happens after that.
Oh, I think it forces you to be productive. And also, I mean, there's an element, at least there was when I was younger, like when things were really starting, like when I first started making beats and everything, where like, like I wasn't competitive with my friends, but we were all doing it. And so it's like, I want to show you what I did. You show me what you did. And like, I would like, it felt way more, like carnal to make music then. Like I would just be like I have to do this. Like I would wake up like I have to make this beat. Whereas like now it's more like I'm so locked into my way of doing things that I can kind of turn it on and off whenever I want. Like if I need to do something, I can do it right there, and I'll do it right there. I'm not gonna procrastinate. But back then
Yeah.
it was like this drive, and I think a lot of that had to do with like the people I was around, and also just the impatience of waiting. you know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Okay. So when your dad moved to New York in the 60s, was he already
Mhm.
making art or was this I know he
Oh
fought in
yeah,
the war.
yeah, he was an artist in the war. He painted uh he had a painting of Japan surrendering that was in the Smithsonian.
Whoa.
Like he was on the Intrepid that where they like surrendered, and which is crazy. So he fought in the war, but he's also an artist in the war.
Wow.
Uh, and then he came. I don't know. He was probably in New York before the '60s. I think he came here. I mean, whenever he got out of the war, he probably moved. He was in Pittsburgh. Then he went to war, and I think he probably came to New York after that. So yeah, but yeah, he was
Okay.
painting. He was painting, and then he did sculpt. He did sculpting. He did kind of all types of art.
Right. So he was already doing it before like by the time you're born in the 70s, he's like
Yeah.
fully like kind of just
Oh yeah.
an
Oh,
artist.
when I'm born, he's 60. So so think about it, like he had 5 kids in his first marriage. My oldest brother's 30 years older than me. So like
Huh.
so he's a half brother, but like so he had a whole other life before I was born, you know? Like and so he was, and he was like very much, as far as I know, just he was a guy like a on the scene art guy, you know?
Hmm.
I remember like hearing that there was a year where him and Norman Mailer were voted the most eligible bachelors in New York or something like
What?
that. Yeah. Yeah, my dad was a bit of a pussy hound. Uh, but like things like that. I mean that's the crazy thing is like I played tennis with a Kurt Vonnegut when I was like 16.
Sorry,
I
what?
fucking
Say that again?
I played tennis with Kurt Vonnegut because he was friends with my dad. My dad had friends from that art world. Like Burgess Meredith was like a good friend of my dad's. Uh, fucking Judge Wapner from People's Court. like these are random people, but and then there's the art people, and then there's all the art people too, who I didn't know anything. I didn't know what they did or anything, but I was just around it. Like
Yeah.
I was going to galleries when I was a kid, and like helping like my parents would throw parties at the house, and like I would like bartend as like a 11-year-old and just like get fucking alcoholics wasted, and you know, it was it was interesting, but yeah, he was an artist.
At the time, did you know that it was interesting?
No, no, I thought it was boring as fuck, and I hated galleries. To this day, I hate galleries. I get if I go into a museum or a gallery, I get tired immediately. I something about it just sucks the energy out of me. I don't have a great interest in fine art at all. I think I like it's funny. Like I guess seeing it from the inside out really kind of took the wind out of the sails a little bit. But also I can it helps me. I can draw comparisons between that and music all day long. Like it's the same exact same thing. And seeing what my dad went through and seeing how how he had to make things work, and it's similar. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, talk to me about that a little bit. Two things. One,
Mhm.
what was your dad's like daily artistic life like?
Oh, he was so in the house we lived in. He had a studio in the on the ground floor, and he worked every day until he was dead. He worked every day. He like how I talked about making music in like the heyday. He was like that till he was 80, and like so he'd go down to the studio. He'd just work from like 10 to 4 or something or whatever, and that was his day. And like he's always working on something. It was different mediums. It'd be wood, it'd be clay, it'd be painting. Like it was always different. Uh, but he was a like a fanatical worker.
Huh.
Like he was obsessive about his work, which was and I guess and I'm not that way, but I can be.
Mhm.
I can turn that on, but
I do. Yeah, I know.
but I definitely like seeing him like that. Seeing my dad do what he did, and it felt like from afar in a way, kind of gave me the blueprint of being like, oh, you can do this for a living. Like art can be a living. Like I never thought you couldn't. And when it worked out, I was like, oh, I'm fucking lucky. Jesus Christ. I didn't realize how lucky I was that this worked out. And that, and also just to do it all the time and just keep working.
Yeah.
And
When you
that's, you know,
start off on something like, I don't know how you like make music. I don't know if you have like an idea in your head that you then put onto Pro Tools, whatever, right?
yeah.
Or if you're just like fucking around with stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I use samples, so I just sit down and kind of go through records and just find something that piques my ear and then like build off
Yeah.
that. And that's kind of, I mean, it's a very simple method. I haven't changed it really much in my entire career. I mean, I've like fine tuned it obviously, but like it's always been, that's kind of been the starting point. And I just kind of start somewhere and then grow it from there, you know?
When you start off on that, can you fall like what happens when I start like whether I'm writing or whatever I'm doing, like I'm happy watching a movie or reading a comic book or something like that.
Mhm.
And I could stay doing that for a while. But then once I start like, you know, I'm just like, oh, you know what? I have an idea for a bit of dialogue and some script I'm working on. That's just this like, suddenly I have this like tunnel vision and I'm in that for hours. Is that what happens to you?
I'm an all or none person when it comes to this stuff. So like I've definitely gone months without making a beat for it. Like I've gone and without feeling a thing. Like I don't feel like I'm just like I just said life was going on. I was like, I don't give a fuck. And then but then there's times if I make a beat, I'm sitting there till it's done. Like I don't pick things up later. Like I and on a kind of a more macro scale, if I'm making an album, I really have to get in a mindset because I know once I start, I'm going to be obsessive about it for like a month and just be like working on it. Because it's like, you know, you'll have ideas to write something and you'll be like, I have to ride this wave, right? Like I have to go with that. So I'll be sitting around, I'll like, you know, making an album. I'll like work on one song in particular and kind of like, I should stop for today because you can't just finish a song in a day, you know? And then I'll be like kind of watching TV and be like, you know what, there's the thing I need to, and like, I go back to it and I have to like I can't not do it. You know, it's a like obsessively, like I'm a completionist obsessively, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like,
Yeah.
but it's also good because I literally, I don't procrastinate ever. Like if someone's like, can you do this remix? They'll have it in a day or two. Cause I don't want it hanging over my head. I want it done and gone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think there's something, I really like the idea of your dad having this like schedule where it's like 10 to 4 every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this and I'm sure visual art, much like music or writing or whatever else, you don't always feel it. You're just there kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm just going to, you know, I just push this clay or chip this wood or whatever, right? And we'll see what happens, but I'm not feeling it.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I just like I'd come home from school and he's just like doing crossword puzzles. I was like, all right, you know, like sure. And other times he's like, you know, actually etching something or, you know, yeah, it's. I mean, I think that's the difference between him and me is that like if I don't feel it, I'm not doing like if I start something and I'm just like I'm not feeling it, I just stop because I won't even get into it, you know.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I have to force myself to go because I need to like start the creative engine, even if it means like usually like when I haven't made beats for a while, like the first beat I make coming back from a break is super mediocre because it's just me kind of getting into the role of my of how I work really, and then the second or third one it kind of picks up and you're like okay now I'm really working, but I have to force myself through that one. Whereas like with him, I think he just you know. He forced himself to work every day. I think that's why he worked in so many mediums because he got bored. And he's like, let me try this, let me try that. You know, he's always just trying new things, and you know, definitely more so than me.
Well, I mean, do you think that like once this is me, I'll just say what happens to me is that once I kind of figure something out, then I get bored of it. Like once I'm like, well, I know the trick for this. I know like, all right, whatever. I know like sitcom writing now. I feel like I'm pretty good at it, having done it for over a decade where I'm just like, yeah, I know what the rhythms are. And so it's boring. So like the
formula.
Yeah.
The formula. Yeah.
You know, I try not to write like formulaic stuff, but you still like, there's rhythms that you kind of just like internalize at that point. So like the last script I wrote was like an hour-long drama because I wanted to kind of just get out of that thing.
Yeah.
So I get that. Does that like, do you feel that too?
Well, the funny thing is like, I think with music, it might be different because like if you pick up, I mean, it's easy to get formulaic and like, I could definitely like step back and look at like my overall scope of what I do as there is a formula to it for sure. But within that formula, I'm trying different things. I'm trying because I'm working with like tempo. I'm working with like swing. I'm working with like mood and like and it's always kind of the actual creative process of like how I'm going to make this thing is there is a formula to it, and that's also why. And I'm extremely locked into it, and I could I'll venture out of it sometimes and like experiment with stuff obviously, but like on a very basic level, like what I'm doing is it's like I know what I'm doing, but I think that what keeps me from not being bored by it is the kind of the gray area within that where I can kind of really experiment and try to make sounds if I listen to like when I'm going through samples, I think about like the samples that would have caught my ear 20 years ago are not the samples that would catch my ear now because my taste has evolved and I'm looking for different things and I'm like oh let me take this like weird atonal hum as opposed to like a jazz loop like
Yeah.
so it just kind of evolves but the actual creative process of like start to finish not that different for me like it's pretty set in stone I feel like.
Yeah, that's a good distinction is that the creative process doesn't change. It is this other stuff. It's also like I was thinking as you were talking, I'm like, oh, you also go back and forth between making music for yourself and making music, making beats for producing beats for other people. So like
yes,
I'm sure and not just the same people, so that like that gets varied as you're like
well it all I mean I just make beats and whoever takes what and then when it's time for me to make and when it's time for me to make an album, like I mark off certain beats that I'm like this could be an instrumental project. And like when it's time for me to make an album, I kind of like gather all those beats and like sit back and be like, well, what can I do with these? And but if like Aesop's like, hey, I want that beat, I'm like, sure, take it. So it's like it's very like I'm just making stuff. I'm just like making stuff and just kind of whatever comes out. And then when it's time for people to like say an artist wants like a pack of beats, I could just kind of like think about who they are, pick ones I think work, and then send it to them.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, that's more that's that. It's all after all the work's done by the time they get it,
Oh wow! So you're just you were just like, hey, I got these ideas. I'm just going to make them, and then what happens to them afterwards is well, I don't know what I was about to say. Like there, it's not like it's not intentional, but it's not goal oriented in terms of like I guess I don't know how to characterize it.
The goal is to amass as much stuff as I can, so when it's time to do something, I have things. You know what I mean? Like and like whether it be an album, because like if it's an instrumental album, it's kind of up to me to pick what I think is going to work. But when you're dealing with like another person's taste, like if I send someone like 30 beats, and they might be like, I like these 2. I'm like, all right, I wouldn't have picked those, but you did, and that's great. Like I send them to you for usage, so I'm not going to tell you to pick this one. And it's more, it's kind of just like you're just making stuff. Yeah, there's no goal. When I'm sitting down, I'm never like, I'm going to make my next single right now. Like that's not happening. Sometimes I'll finish something. I'll be like, that's a single. Like when I'm done, I'll be like, there's something about that. That's special. I'll remember that when it's time for this or that,
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but that does feel a little bit like your dad's rhythms.
I mean, maybe well, the thing is he would work on, again, like fine art's different. It takes so much longer to make a sculpture than it does to make an album,
Right.
And he would like he did this fountain in like the early 90s and he was working on it for a year or two. And it was just like this clay, it had steel, it had all these things. And it was like, that was all he did. And he did like different scaled versions of it. He did like it was, I don't know why he did all the work he did, to be honest with you, because the fountain was the fountain. There's all this other stuff that went along with it. But that's like, that consumed him for a year or two, and with me, that's not going to happen because I'm just going to like, I'll finish a project and have like another one that's ready to go right after that, just because I just have enough stuff, I have enough content really.
Yeah. Okay. So then the second thing, going back to when I said 2 things like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
The second thing was, besides seeing the daily routine of an artist in your life, I would think you also saw the reality of the business side of making art in America, from having a I don't know about role model, but having someone in your life.
Yes, in a way. I remember the funny thing is I didn't see it so much. Like I wasn't paying attention to it that much because again I was not like invested in the art, my parents' art friends when I was like 12 years old. But I would like hear people talk and like especially like hearing art critics and how they'd be like, well, this is great and this is bad, and I'd be like, what's the fucking difference? And and I remember like one summer I worked at this gallery and my job was like to hang paintings, like I basically like hung installations, and and I just would sit with the guy who was like deciding where things go, and he would just be like, well, I don't like that, and he's like, well, and then there'd be like personal issues he'd have with the artist, so he'd give them like worse places, like it was all very political, and I was like, huh, interesting, and it felt very arbitrary to me, and and that was kind of how I viewed the business of art. It's like it's kind of just depends on what this fucking guy thinks or like that guy thinks, and so like in a way it kind of freed me creatively because I'm like, it doesn't matter. What I make will never matter because like it's either gonna get take off or it's not. Like I'm not gonna make like a pop, like my dad was never gonna make like Andy Warhol art, and I'm never gonna make like a Mace song, so like it didn't, like it kind of, there was a free, it allows, I think seeing that allowed me to just kind of do what I wanted to do and just like see how things pan out afterwards,
Yeah.
But the business, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, what about the, like the economic reality of it too?
Well, it's hard to say because like my, I wasn't like hyper aware of my dad's like income from art, like I didn't, my mom was a social worker too. So it was like, there was two incomes and like, and we lived in like a nice house and like, it was kind of just like, all right. And he died when I was 20. So like, I wasn't thinking about it really, so it was very, it was more just like, okay, like clearly he's doing fine. like we live in this house, it's nice,
Yeah.
That was kind of, I never saw the business side of it outside of like the political business side of it, where people are kind of like, well, this and that, and it, like just kind of like taste making in a way,
I guess I asked it because I was shocked, I think, moving to LA, where the idea of show business, I don't think I realized that it was like 90% business. I don't think I realized that most of the stuff was the business end. And if you can navigate that to make the thing you want, or navigate that to at least make a living and, afford all the vet visits for your dog who keeps getting weird chronic, weird chronic conditions and diarrhea, then like, great, thumbs up. Right. I don't think I don't think I knew that. And I guess in my mind, I was like, oh, well, maybe you kind of like conned on to that earlier.
No, the music business thing, I kind of, honestly, I learned about from rap music because rappers were rapping about dirty contracts and bad. Like, so by the time I was signing contracts, it was like 2004, like solo contracts. I already had, like, I knew I had a lawyer. Like I knew to have all those things and like kind of like it, like the music business had already kind of, the grift was up a bit, like all those shitty contracts from like the late 80s and like the NWA contracts or fucking, De La Soul contract, like all those early rap contracts were kind of had been exposed, and I think the norms had changed and kind of made people more aware of that stuff. So by the time that came around, I was like, we're good. It's kind of good. It's
man, I wish I'd listened to more early hip hop when I was a kid, and then maybe I would have known, hey, have a lawyer when you sign your first contract.
Oh yeah. Yes. It's huge. It's very important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Not to get too much of the business stuff, but for any listeners listening, the lawyer is the most important person if you don't want to get fucked over.
Yeah. The things you don't realize about like arts is that like, well, I mean, it's probably, I imagine it's similar with writing and stuff like that, but like agents are important, your managers or whatever. But really, timing and luck. Skill is like skill is so low on the list of what matters. It's crazy. It's like and it's sad because I've had friends who were like infinitely more talented than me and like who should have been famous and just it didn't happen for whatever reason, and and like it just the time it's
Yeah.
something happened and you were there, and guess what? Now you got a career.
Yeah.
It's that's just how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you move to New York after
Mhm.
Sketch has died, and then you're like, well, I guess I'm going to do something else. Yeah. It was more of the like, I guess, the thing that like bugs me a lot is the kind of rapaciousness of the business side, and the fact that you just have to, and I don't know if this is the same in music, but I assume it's the same. You just have to kind of like make your peace with being exploited. And that's why I was just like, yeah, the lawyer's the most important, because a lot of managers and agents still have other, when they're going to fight for you, but like they also have other relationships they have to worry about, especially relationships with these entities that they're fighting on your behalf. And they have to worry about those relationships and their other clients and things like that. Your lawyer doesn't usually care about that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we'll just fight for you. Not to get too much into the business side of this.
But it's also like you're kind of like you got to pick your battles, and like it's like I remember when like selling out was like this big thing, like don't sell out like that, like that's the ethos of like golden era hip hop is no sellout. But like when you get in the business, you're like, oh no, I just have to like curate my sellout. Like I have to like pick my spots and like take sometimes you got to eat a little shit to make a better point to get what you want in the larger scheme. And again, I'm an indie artist, so like it wasn't a huge thing for me, but there have been times where I had to do things that I was asked to do things where I was like, what? Like someone, I remember being asked they're like, could you just make this album dubstep? And I was like, what? I was like, me? I was like, I don't make dubstep. Like it's like stuff like that. And of course I didn't do that. But then there's other things where like, can you change the drums on this song because they sound dated? And I was like, sure, I could do that.
Yeah, sure. That was, yes. The first show my wife and I sold was, I won't go into it, but basically like it was a travel log show. She would come with me to certain things like indie rock shows, and she would be like, I'm the only black person here. And she would have things to say about it. And we were like, oh, that's funny. It's funny if you go into white spaces and like make comments about it. And we sold a show like that. On the first kickoff phone call, when we were just talking about it with the network, they were like, we like this. We sold, by the way, we had sold it. We had signed contracts. We had made a pilot and everything like that. They're like, we were wondering, could this possibly be a millennial 60 Minutes? And
you're like, what?
Yeah, what the, like, we didn't say this out loud, but like, we're just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's absurd.
We could sell you that show. But I guess the thing that I'm getting to is like this business stuff, like I had to be exploited for a long time before I kind of like figured it out.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, well, maybe you knew that and maybe you avoided being exploited.
Well, I think writers are going to get exploited more than musicians just because it's words and there's standards and practices and like so many hands in the cookie jar there. Mm-hmm. Whereas like indie musician, the biggest fights would be like, well, this should be the single. And like, or like, it's never been like, I've never had that. I don't think I've really felt exploited because I'm not famous enough to be exploited. I'm not successful enough to be exploited. Like I've always been an underground artist. So like, and there's a reason because I'm just stay there, I know my lane,
Yeah. Well, is it that you know your lane, or it's just that's what emerges from you naturally? And you found that because it emerges from you naturally, that you have a specific niche.
Sometimes I wonder, like, I don't know, like if someone put the screws to me about like changing something in a major way, I've had people be like, you should stop sampling because it puts a ceiling on what you can do with your music. Like it can't be in movies, it can't be in TV, it can't be in commercials. And I'm just like, yeah, but that's what I do. So I'm not going to like pretend to learn to play instruments now in fucking 20 years in my career and be like, now I play upright bass. Like, no, that's fucking insane. So like, it's more just being like, these are the limitations that we work with. I'm okay with it. It's my opinion that matters because I'm the one who's making the shit.
Yeah.
And as long as it keeps like, keeps me making money, living off that money, then can't really say shit, it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, no, I totally get that. What else is going on in the 80s and the 90s that's kind of pushing you in this direction? Is it just that like you happen to be in New York as hip hop like explodes? Is it like what else? Like it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
that, but like are there other things that you're interested in doing and you keep getting drawn back to making music or what?
Well,
Like what's happening?
well, it's I mean, I think that in the 80s and 90s, especially like downtown, like hip hop was like omnipresent. It was just like everywhere. And I don't even think I thought about it as like something that didn't like, I don't remember it not existing, even though I
Mm.
was alive. Like I remember I saw fucking Beat Street in the theater with my mom, which is weird because like why would my mom take me to that movie? But I remember being obsessed with it. And I was like 7 maybe.
Mm.
And I didn't know what rap was. I just like there's a scene where like Santa Claus is rapping, he says a curse. I was like, this is amazing. And but like I think that was always the thing. And I was never and I had an older brother who was very into music, but he was into like top 40 music. But he would like always be playing top 40 music in the house. So like when hip hop started to bleed into that a little bit, like when, like I guess well, like Rob Bass, It Takes Two or something like that. Like one of these like old songs that like kind of got a little run, even like MC Hammer and stuff like that. Like those things kind of I mean, I was already into rap at that point, I guess, but it's just like there was always music playing and I was always drawn to that. Like I was never like a lot of my friends listened to like classic rock at that time, and I was always like, I'm not into this. And I went that way. But I was also like really into wrestling. And like and I loved like stand-up comedy when I was a kid. There was a time in my life where before music took off where I was like seriously considering like getting into acting and doing stuff like that. And I had a public access show with my friends in New York for like 3 years. And it was like, I mean, relatively successful as public access shows get. And like I was like, oh, maybe this is what I'll do. And we did like sketches. We literally did like improv sketches in on TV in the 90s.
Wait,
When we
what
were
years was this?
96, 97, 98, something like that. Maybe 97, 98, 99. But we had a show for 3 years on public access that thankfully does not exist anywhere online because it was completely not okay.
Mm.
it was
Mm.
it was like 19-year-olds in the 90s. It was like we were way too we were talking a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like it, like,
It's the heyday of irony too. Like it's the
Yes.
heyday of like everyone's
Yeah.
beat from like David Cross to Janine
Yes.
Garofalo. There's like so much
Yes.
irony in the comedy scene. Sarah Silverman.
Yes. 100%. I mean, like Mr. Show was definitely like a big show for me when I was growing up. But like or when I mean, I guess I was like a teen or late teen when that came out. But yeah, it's just it was just very offensive and like
Yep.
a lot of gay jokes,
Mm.
at the time. A lot of things that wouldn't age well now, But we were fucking dumb kids, and we were just on TV saying crazy shit. And but I liked that, and I was like, oh, this might be the thing. But I was doing music at the same time, and and eventually I was just kind of like, well, the music is kind of where it's at for me.
Yes, not
So,
heavily offensive
no,
improvised
no.
sketches.
And I took an acting class, and I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hate this, and I was like, and I left it. I left like immediately.
What was it about acting? Like once you started taking the class, that was it like for me, I realized I was a shitty actor. I'm an okay comedic actor, but like anything where I have to like actually show emotion or something like that, I feel like a cage that I'm like I can't get out of.
Yes. Similar. I mean, listen, I got like 3 classes in, and the guy's like, he would give us assignments to be like, all right, now just show us, you're gonna mime doing like an everyday activity, and I'd be like, all right, and I would not practice. I'd just be like, sure, I'll make a sandwich, and I'd make the sandwich, and the first time he's like, oh, that's great. And I was like, all right, and then it got like a little more advanced every time, and then he's like, you didn't work on this, and I was like, why would I fuck this? I don't give a fuck about this. and granted, I'm sure it's part of the process, but I also was like, I don't like actors. like I don't like value that as like I know I have friends that are actors, but I'm saying like in a general sense, I'm not like, oh, I'm very impressed by by that craft. they're amazing people, but I do think 95% of actors could do the same role. Uh,
Even though your tennis partner had a cameo in Back
yes.
to School?
Mind you, I didn't know he was Kurt Vonnegut when we played. He was just a cranky old man who was not happy to be playing with this like an athletic 15-year-old.
But like once you started, let's just say making things in
Yeah.
general, that was the path you were on. There was no like maybe like did you ever like look at your mom and be like, oh, this is a worthwhile, like she's doing good in the world. Maybe I should do
No,
that.
because school was never good for me. I was always bad at school. I didn't care. I was a person who, like, didn't try, got bad grades, had no remorse, felt nothing about, like, if I got an F, I was like, whatever. Because I didn't care. I did all right. I was a decent writer, and that's the only thing I really tried in, I think. But I barely got through high school. I cheated and I lasted 1 year in college and dropped out and was like, well, that's not happening. And then I was making music and we were doing the TV show and music at the same time. And but music was like definitely more my passion than the TV show was. And I don't know, I was working shitty jobs but I just stuck with it. And then like I'd met Aesop in college, and that kind of like raised everything up because I finally met someone who was like a actual skilled rapper. I was like, oh, I can make beats for this guy, and so that helped.
Yeah. And it works really well as a partnership.
Yeah. But I had no plan B, which is crazy to think about. And like my mom was weirdly supportive of it for some reason. I think probably because she was, she dated an artist, so she kind of gets it, I think. But it was, it could have gone a different way. I could definitely be one of those like, old bartenders. That was the other direction. Like I was gonna be in the. It's not the worst thing. I could have been a lifelong service industry guy. I think had music not panned out because I was good at it.
It's not bad if that's what you want. Like there's no job that's bad if it's the thing that you actually want to be doing, or you want it, or you're doing it for like your family or something like that.
Yeah, well, see, that's the difference. Yeah, I would say that like I don't think I would have been satisfied creatively if I just had a job that I was doing to get by. Because when I did have jobs like that, I was working on stuff. I was always creating stuff, whether it be, like the show, music, or even like writing stuff. Like, and I always had that drive to do something creative. So I feel like I would have done something creative, but I don't know what it would. I don't know. I don't know how I would have met the person that would have, like, it's easy. I could have ended up doing something totally different, but it just, the chips fell as they did.
Yeah. Well, I do think that having that practice at least in the back of your head, I do think that there was something in you that like would propel you forward.
I think it was ignorance. I think it was ignorance.
Oh,
really? I think it was ignorance of not realizing how difficult it is to succeed at that thing. I think it was me being like, I could do this. And I do think that meeting Aesop had a big part of that, because like prior to that, I'd been rapping too. I was rapping. I was in a group with guys, and we were like kind of just like fucking around making songs. And we were like, this could work. This could work. And like looking back, I was like, insane to think that would have worked. And but I guess I just never thought that it wasn't an option. And it just kind of worked out. Like things just slowly, like little by little, things happen, and until it was my career.
Yeah. Okay. Then last question. When do you think the way that you've kind of described this then is that like you like this thing, you were kind of moving this direction, and there's a lot of like luck and some, just kind of contingent things that happen that kind of like end up pushing you in that trajectory. When do you think you got good at it? When do you think you felt like, oh, this is like, it's not just like something I'm like tinkering with, like I'm actually good at this?
I think I had already put out like multiple albums before I got good at it. I think I don't think I got good until like 2010, 2000. Like really? I'd have to look. Whenever the Music Scene album was the first. Well, no, actually, I'd say before that. Like my first, like the early work with Aesop and like my first solo album, like I was still winging it, and my second solo album still winging it. After that, I started to kind of get my groove and like really kind of like I knew like I could execute things in a way that I couldn't before. but that's the thing. It's like when you don't think about what you're doing, you're just putting shit out. You don't consider those things, and ironically, people will be like, "Well, that's your best work," That's so that's kind of how that works. But like yeah, I think I would say like 2006, 2007, and I started making beats in like 94. So
Wow.
that. But looking back at the time, I would have told you something different. But looking back, I could be like, that's kind of when I found my groove.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Tony, thank you for joining me.
Oh,
This
no
was
problem.
a delight to talk to
Yes,
you.
it was great. Great conversation.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye. Bye.